So finally, we are discussing Docker networking. Here we completed bridge. We created bridge network, and we entered to the bridge. Now, next thing, host only. In bridge network, bridge is nothing but what I showed. On default network we have in Docker, and using this bridge network we can connect the containers. Can connect the containers, and also here this by default in bridge network will be there. Every container we create goes to the bridge network. If you want to create any network, you can create your own network of bridge type. By default, it will be bridge type. And what are the containers we created? Here you can go inside the containers about the bridge, and also now we are going to set a host only. Host only nothing but there is no separate network for this host only type of driver, in which this will be accessible through the host. The name itself, host only. Host only means there is no separate network here we have. Here host only network means a bridge. Bridge network by default, bridge is there. For example, see here. By default network, what we are seeing is a bridge. Means there is separate network for these containers. It is not dependent or independent of host. This type of network is bridge. But what is host only means there is a separate network for container in Docker, in which that will be accessible or that will dependent on the host machine directly. There is no separate network it has. Means host only network, there is no separate network it has. How it will be means, see. Here host machine and Docker tool I have, in which now if I have any container like this, I have one container in the Docker. If this container are created in host only network, the type of host, nothing but what I'm showing host machine. If I created this in host, the network type what we have is host. It is created in the host only driver type or network type. In that case, there is no separate network we have here. Okay, in which this will be accessible directly through host machine. But previously, when I showed the previous diagrams here, bridge network. In this type of network, how this container will be accessible through Docker 0, and from outside we can interact with ETH0 from here Docker 0. Why? Because this is separate network. Through this network only container we should access. In case of bridge network. But if you go with host only network, okay, there is no separate network we have for this container. Directly it will be under host network only. Directly it will be under host network. It will be accessible directly from host network. There is no separate network for Docker tool. If you go with host only network driver type or network name, okay, for this container, there is no separate network we have in Docker. Directly it will be accessible from your host machine through IP and port number. But if you go with bridge network, there is a separate network bridge network in the Docker tool and will be accessible from the machine. This is bridge type of network. This is host only network. Host only means there is no separate network we have for container in Docker tool in which will be accessible directly from the host machine. There is no Docker 0, nothing. Directly it will be accessible through host machine IP and host machine port number. Everything. Means there is no separate network here we have with this container. That is known as host. Okay, next for host only network. Or we can say the host network. If we create a container in the host network type, then there is no separate network there is no separate network for the container in the Docker tool in which the container will be under host machine network. That is, there is no separate Docker 0. There is no separate Docker 0 entry point for the network. Directly will be accessible by using the host machine entry point that is ETH0. That is like this a host. If you create a container inside a host network type, then we have no separate network like Docker 0 like this. Directly it will be accessible under ETH0. But by default, if you create any container in the Docker, it comes under bridge network only. It comes under bridge only, not host. Bridge means separate network we have for those containers. But if you go with specifically, if you want to create under host, you can create this container under host type of network. Okay, how to create, already we know that how to create, how to run a container under specific network -net there. Every customized or every network what we are going to create, okay, will be under bridge network only by default. But we have one host network also. If you want, you can do that, but Mapit is not going to give that. How to do, we'll see now. How to, I'll go with that. First, already we know this host and bridge only. Docker network ls. The network should become okay. Docker network. We have different types of networks. We have user-defined networks, dev QA yesterday we created, and these are predefined networks. Bridge network, host network. No, without it. Okay, now if you want to create Docker images, again I'm going to show you. If you want to create any, by default, if you create any container, will goes to your default network bridge. If you want to create your kind of specific network, you want to use -net and that network name. Okay, now already yesterday I showed how to create a container under specific network. Okay, first Docker run name admin one. And default I'm going to create first. Default I'm going to create. Okay, if I use this by default, it comes under what network? Bridge network. This one. In this, it is going to be created. Check it, Docker PS. Okay, it is running now. Where it is running, you can check. To check the Docker inspect container ID. Now see here, it is running in bridge type of network under this IP address that we saw already. By default, every container, if you create without any specific network, it comes under bridge network default network. Next, one more container I'm going to create. One more I'm going to create specific name. Docker run name. Container ID, image ID. And before going to image ID, where you are going to create that you want to mention. I'm going to create under one specific network dev an image. Docker PS. Now see here it is running. Now to check this where it is running, Docker inspect container what it is running in dev container I'm going to. Now see here it is running in dev. Okay, if you want to open this Docker PS, if you want to enter with this container ID which is running in dev. If you want to enter to this, how to enter Docker execute in tracking mode. I'm entering to the container which is running in bridge network, default network first. IP command not. It is saying command not. Why? Because here it is not identifying the driver. That's why to install the driver, by default in every container there is no IP driver directly. You want to update that. If we take install one driver we have known as net tools. This network driver type you want to install, then only your IP here also dependent. Alright, so if config. Okay, you can see if config. If config means if 0. This is the if 0 which is inside the container, just like how I am showing here. If 0 will happens with host machine, right? But okay, for entire network Docker 0, inside the container also now like a host machine, one machine only. If you enter to that, this entry point also will be one if 0. Okay, just how your host machine is there, here also one if 0 we have. Here also if 0. For content, every content we create will have one entry point, right? That also will be one NIC put faster, like that if 0 here. For entire network Docker 0, but internally for every container one if 0 will be there, just like for host mesh how we have. That's I'm showing you. Yeah, if 0. If 0 will be there for this container. Okay, like this. I enter to the container which is running in default network, that is bridge. Now I'm going to enter to the container which is running in our user defined network, that is Dell. That I'll show you. Docker execute container ID bin bash. Okay, now if config command on. Why? Because that net tools you want to install. Means by default this IP or if config it is not going to be show. That's why you want to install driver known as net tools. Then only it will get. Just update your container. Next, apt get installed NetTools. One network driver type it is. NetTools is one network driver type. Then only IP address, everything we can check here. So now we can check if one. Now it is there. Here also one it is 0. It is 0 means it is one entry point to the content. Like this, for every container also we have one entry point separately. That is known as it is 0, just like your host. Like this, I created one container in my bridge type of network, that is a user defined network or predefined network, whatever it may be. By default, if we create any network, the driver type will be bridge. Now we create a bridge. This is separate networks we have under Docker. And now I am going to show you host also. Host. Just now we discussed about host. If you create any container inside a host type, okay, that has no separate Docker 0. Till now, how many Docker zeros we have? Docker in the host machine. Now in entire host machine, how many Docker zeros we have? I'll show you. How many networks. Okay, Docker 0 is the default network, that is bridge, and above that, okay, we created one network like Dev network and QA network. For those networks also, we have entry points like Docker 0. Docker 0 is the entry point for your default network bridge network. See the broadcast 17.17 from 17 to, this is for your Docker, the default network. This is for what are the QA network we created. This is the address. This is for dev address. Like this, different networks, we created two networks, but two networks separately, two entry points created. But previously, when I use if config in my machine, I have only Docker 0. That is default network of your Docker, that is bridge. Now I created two things, two network dev and QA. For this, two entry points created for entire networks. Okay, but for host only network, host only also we have host network. What I'm saying, for host network, there is a separate network. The host machine network directly it is going to access. That's why for that there is no any other entry point. Okay, now whatever the container we created in this host type of network, it has no separate network. It will be directly created under host machine only. There is no separate entry point. Okay, for that to create that simple, directly I want to create like this. How we have created the containers in specific networks. Here also we can create Docker images. Now see here, Docker PS. Two containers running. One is in default network, that is a bridge network. Another one is our customer network, that is dev. Okay, now I'm going to create one more container in a host network or host type of network. So Docker run name admin3, and in what network I'm going to create the host. This one, host type of network, and image ID. Now create Docker. Now see here. Third container running in a host network. For this, there is no separate network here. Docker network, three networks we have. Now inspect the Docker host. Sorry, Docker inspect the host type of network ID. Network ID. Now see here, there is no MAC at nothing for this type of network. Name is host. If you observe, there is no separate network address. You can check. Just container created in this network. But if you go with, see what I'm saying, for host, there is no separate network we have. That I'm showing now. I'll show you the difference of Docker inspect. If you observe bridge, I'm selecting bridge type of network. Docker spelling mistake. Now see here. For this bridge type of network, there is a subnet, network address, default gateway, all those things. That means if you have network address, meaning there is a separate network created. Gateway means there is a separate network we have like this. This is. If you have network address subnet, nothing but a gateway, that is separate network. Bridge type of a separate network in Docker tool I'm saying, but of course there is a separate network. It will be directly created under host machine only I'm saying. That's the proof I'm showing now. Docker network service. Okay, now I showed that bridge. Now again I'm going to show you the host. Now see here, there is a separate MAC address, nothing empty. All those things are empty. Because this is host only. That means there is a separate network we have for this type of driver. Directly, what are the content created in this type of host network? It will be created under host machine surroundings. We can see. Okay. Now I'll check that. Docker PS Docker inspect this type of content. See here for this type of container, there is what is the network? What is the network type host? Is there any IP address? No, nothing. That means it is not created under a specific network, it is created directly under a host machine. By using your host machine IP only, this container you can access. By using a host machine IP, this container access. Because this container is created on the host network, will have no separate IP, no separate network. It will be directly created under host machine only. Host machine IP only we can use to access this from outside. This type of network is known as host only network. Okay, like this, host only we cannot use maximum, and in terms of we are going to use bridge type of network. But for example, I will show you here to create this. You can say that to create the container in the host network is the following. So like this, so that's about host and all these things. If you use network equal none means it will not create it under any other network. It is also just like your host only. Okay, without if you not if you don't want to create to contain under any other network, you can use none. None means without any network. Host means your system network. Bridge means with separate network we have under the top. Okay, that's about concept Docker networking and container network. This will useful in your Kubernetes. Maximum in Kubernetes, this type of concept we are going to use. Here it is not going to be used directly. Here this container networking, Docker networking concept is useful in Kubernetes networks. In Kubernetes also containers are going to be used. There it is useful. Before going to that, first you want to observe here what is here. That's about the container networking concept. Okay, now the containers what we learned till now. It is not going to be used directly in real-time scenario. You can use directly, but it is going to be used under maximum real-time scenario. The containers concept will be used under Kubernetes. One more tool we are going to see now that is related to containers only, or we can say that Kubernetes in Kubernetes containers is going to be used. Before going to the Kubernetes complete containers, we discuss maximum part that is useful for us. Okay. Next, we are going to see about Kubernetes. Very, very important. Finally, we are going to see about Kubernetes here. See, first Kubernetes. Next topic, Kubernetes. Very, very important topic. This one. It is going to be used in the infrastructure level. The Dockers and Kubernetes we are going to use in infrastructure level. At what place means at production environment. Maximum we are going to use at production environment or pre-prod environment. Maximum Kubernetes and Dockers we are going to use at production and pre-prod environment of your project. This is the final step. This is the final step in which the application is going to be run. In that final step infrastructure level, a Kubernetes concept or tool we are going to use. What is Kubernetes means? A Kubernetes is a, you can say that Kubernetes, it is a container orchestration tool. Tool or software. Kubernetes is a container orchestration tool or software. First point. Kubernetes is a container orchestration tool or software. What is orchestration? What is container orchestration means? See. Container orchestration is a technical word. Container orchestration means performing the following actions. Or what is container orchestration? Some action is going to be performed in this orchestration process. That is known as container orchestration. Container orchestration means performing the following actions. What are the actions means? Deployment, scaling, monitoring, high availability, or we can say that no downtime. Next. Again, I'm showing scalability. Scaling also scalability. Both are same. Scalability, or we can say that high performance. And disaster recovery. That is known as restore and back, you can say. Okay, different concept, like we can say that one more thing. Maintaining desired state. Maintaining desired state. Like the actions, what I'm showing here, performing these type of actions on the containers. Where these actions is going to be performed on the containers is known as container orchestration. Container orchestration means performing the following actions on the containers. You can say that on the containers. Where we are going to perform the actions? On the containers only. Till now, the containers, what we learned in Docker, on the containers, some actions is going to be performed at live environment is known as container orchestration. The actions, what I will tell you, I will explain. Okay. Again, reconnect to the same. Time is going out, reconnect.